Hey everybody. Today is December 3rd, so we'll be looking at MTG stocks December 2nd. Notice that the first couple here are things that we've already seen before. Brazen Borrower we reviewed just yesterday. This is the not pretty art version, basically, or it's still fine, but it's the not fancy art, I should say, version. And then we also have Boros Signet, we've seen before, so we will start at Diabolical Tutor today, which a little bit of an increase, but there's so many Diabolical Tutors that this spike isn't really, it's not going to affect much really. But anyways, Diabolical Tutor, what it does, if you are not aware, it's a pretty decent black card. For at least budget, I'll say. So Diabolical Tutor costs 2 colorless, 2 black. Sorcery, search your library for a card and then put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. It is basically Demonic Tutor, which we've gone over that before, but it costs 2 more mana. And so if you're wondering why would you ever want to have Diabolical Tutor over Demonic Tutor, it's you wouldn't unless you are okay with the budget, in the sense of like Diabolical Tutor costs about $2. Really, you can get it for probably like 50 cents to $1, depending on what you buy. And then Demonic Tutor is like a good $25, $30 card at this rate. So if you don't have the budget, Diabolical Tutor is great. And I mean, even for 4 mana, sometimes like it's okay. I don't know if you really have both, because I'm assuming if you spend that kind of money for the Demonic Tutor, you probably have much better stuff that you can put into your deck aside from Diabolical Tutor. But I think it's still like a decent card. I've had like, when you get into the later turns in Commander, if you're not playing Commander or competitive Commander, then you can tutor out some crazy drop when you have like a bunch of mana, and then it'll be pretty good. I've had it happen where I've had like I think it's Moyajin, and then I Diabolical Tutored him out, and then I drew like 20 cards with Moyajin. It was pretty fun. Sometimes even expensive cards like, well, this seems expensive, at least comparatively to Demonic Tutor, but even cards like this, it may not seem like it's great when it costs that much, but it can really help you out. Go to our next card. It says the Cavalier of Flame. This is from the M20 set, so this is pretty recent. 2 colorless, 3 red, creature elemental knight, it's a 6/5. So its ability here is you can pay 1 colorless and 1 red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So if nothing else, this is a 2 mana give all your creatures haste, which can be pretty useful. But the fact that it is a mana dump ability and it can also increase your creature's power is pretty nice. His other ability, when he enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. So if you just have a bunch of lands and you don't need them, or if you have some other stuff that's just garbage, you can get them out, but you don't have to, which is nice. When it dies, it deals X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of lands cards in your graveyard. Okay, this is actually really cool. I didn't even know that was the last ability. So what's really cool about this guy is that for a Lands Matter deck, at least in, or sort of Lands Matter or Landfall or whatever you want to call it, I would say this works pretty well for Lord Windgrace, for instance, where with his ability you can discard cards, and then you're able to do damage based on land cards in your graveyard. So Lord Windgrace, you have a bunch of like sack lands or whatever. Pretty nice. Even Corvold would be pretty good if you have a way to get a bunch of sack lands out and then use Cavalier, and then you can sacrifice Cavalier if you just want to do like maybe 5-10 damage real quick. So pretty neat. I'm gonna check his price real quick because I'm curious now. Let's keep going up. It needs to be cheaper for me. I'm a cheap boy. Let's go ahead and go to that next card. Supreme Verdict. This is 1 colorless, 2 white, and a blue. Sorcery, can't be countered. Destroy all creatures. Foo doggies. It is a pretty good board clear. When you look at something like Wrath of God costs 2 white, 2 colorless, and destroy all creatures that can't regenerate, which is pretty nice. It's a pretty staple white card. Supreme Verdict, I think, is pretty crazy and kind of indicated by, I think it's like about $13 now, but by its price, I think other people believe that too. It's because I don't know. Besides blue, I would say there aren't a ton of ways to counter this, unless you have like red and elemental blast or something. But the fact that you can, because usually like in competitive EDH, I would say a lot of people do run blue or have some sort of way to counter stuff, and so for this to be able to go off reliably is pretty nice. I don't play enough CDEDH to confirm that statement, but in my eyes, I can see this being pretty good. It seems like from what Commander or competitive games that I've seen, like I've seen a few YouTube videos, which Playing with Power, I believe, is that channel. I don't really see him do a ton of board wipes because they're usually going more for their combos as fast as they can. They do have a lot of counter spells and stuff, but I think Supreme Verdict could probably help a competitive EDH deck where you are trying to really, probably more stacks if you want to call it that, or just control in general. And I think this one would be pretty nice. Also like the artwork quite a bit. It's pretty cool. It looks like the bird skeleton thing is just kind of disintegrating, and it's just like this huge. It looks kind of like a tidal wave with like holy. I don't even know what's going on honestly, but it's a cool card. Let's go ahead and go to the next card here. So this one is Arabian Nights, old style card. I like to look at these. This is Ernam Dijin, 3 colorless, 1 green, 7 Dijin, 4/5. During your upkeep, you must choose one of your opponent's non-wall creatures in play, which is kind of weird, but okay. Old cards like to do that kind of weird stuff. Until your next upkeep, that creature gains the Forest Walk ability. If the opponent has no creatures, ignore this effect. So, older cards can probably be semi-notorious for playing negative effects on cards. And so, like this one is, you give your opponent a buff, and if you're playing a green deck, you probably have a forest, not always, but probably have a forest out, and so they basically get an unblockable creature out of you. And he's a 4 mana 4/5. Is that good? No, not really. Back then it was probably okay because when you have like a bigger creature, I mean, 4 mana 4/5 for back then was, and it's kind of weird because when you think of like back then, you're like, wow, but what about Black Lotus and then Lion Diamond and all that, etc. I feel like for back then, those cards were very good and they were noted to be very good, but because the other cards were not very good, like this one or some other things, maybe not so. It's not back then they were decent or good, but you know when we look at them now, we're like, doesn't do much, and it's because the high stats just, we have like Rotting Regisaur, 3 mana 7/6, and then he makes you discard a card at the beginning of your upkeep, and so it's this crazy card, and nothing like that would have been made. Like there's I think Force of Nature. I think it costs like 3 green, 5 colorless. If you don't pay 4 at the beginning of your upkeep, you do like 8 damage to yourself or something crazy. You're like, how is this ever good? But for back then, it was such a big creature that is worth it. It's kind of interesting. Now this card right here, I'm gonna go ahead and go back up here just to look. It's worth $250. You're thinking, wow, that's a spoiler right there. But wow, that's crazy. Why is it worth that much? And it's literally just because it was printed in that set. This one, as you can see, let's go and read this one. This is the Nam Dijin, 3 colorless, green, creature Dijin, 4/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, target non-wall creature and opponent controls gains 4 walk until your next upkeep. You know the difference between those two cards is? About $250. This card is worth about 30 cents, and it's just because this card really isn't good, as you can tell, based on the price, or it's not great. But because of the sheer difference of sets and the rarity of these older sets, that's the difference, which is still crazy to me. But there you go. It's very interesting. For the commander of tonight, I'm going to kind of continue, because yesterday we looked at Temur. So I'm going to kind of continue a little bit and go to Abzan today. So we're going to look at the Abzan Dragon Boy. So this is Teneb the Harvester. He is 3 colorless, black, green, white. Legendary creature dragon. He has flying and is a 6/6. And when he deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2 colors and a black. If you do, put target creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. He, like, all these dragons are kind of interesting, and I don't know really how good they are. I mean, you know, he got 6 mana. He's a 6/6 flying, which is okay. It's nothing great. And then his ability, if you can ever actually hit somebody, because none of them have trample, which is one problem. But if you actually do hit somebody, you still have to pay 3 mana, which isn't a lot considering what an effect does here. So you have all these stipulations, and you have all these things that's going to make it hard to do. Because even if you put, like, Lightning Greaves or Swift Boots out, you still have to have the other 3 mana to actually use his effect. So those don't even really help you that much, except for to keep them alive a little bit better with the Hexproof or Shroud or whatever. But regardless, like, some of these dragons, I feel like their abilities aren't good at all. I feel like the Temur one and this Abzan one is actually pretty decent, because paying 3 mana to put any creature card from your graveyard into the battlefield is pretty nice. I do like the dredging and graveyard decks quite a bit, so this is kind of up my alley. This would probably be, you know, this may be something I consider to make, because the good thing about this one is that, unlike the Temur one, you're going to probably stack your deck to have a bunch of big creatures, and then you're going to be like, oh crap, if I don't have my commander out, then these big creatures probably don't do a lot. So it's kind of sad. But with this one, the good thing is that if you do like dredging and etc., and you kind of base your deck around reanimation in general, Teneb is more or less a enhancer for your deck and not a requirement for your deck, which I actually really like about this card right now when I'm thinking about it, is because even if you can't get Teneb off, there should be enough stuff in your deck to help you keep your theme and keep the deck going pretty well. Like, you should have reanimation and Lila Blue, and I think because of that, I actually like this Teneb, or this Abzan Dragon, more than the Temur Dragon. And then also, a kind of follow up from yesterday, I'm going to be showing the Abzan Ascendancy. So in this one, it is a white, black, green enchantment. When it enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, which can be nice for token decks. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So it's pretty nice. I feel like, you know, you're combining 2 themes, sort of. If you have enough creatures or ways to reanimate. So it is nice, actually, because you're able to reanimate stuff, right? If you want to sacrifice off your creature and put it into the graveyard, and then you make a 1/1 white flying spirit token, which is nice, having that spirit blocker if needed. That's great. And then on top of that, if you have ways to, like, keep reoccurring stuff out of your graveyard, kind of like with Teneb or something, and you keep getting those tokens. And then whenever in the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That one's kind of okay. Like, I think you would it's kind of weird because they're like, we want you to have a bunch of creature tokens out because of the +1/+1, or at least a bunch of creatures. But then also, we don't care about your creature tokens and make tokens when non-creatures die. I don't know. It's sort of weird to me. I understand why they don't say whenever a creature dies, because then that would just be broken. But I think it's a cool. I do like these enchantments a lot. Like I've said, you could definitely do something cool with Stapperlings, or probably a lot of Abzan stuff. Abzan seems to be a good color combination. I like it quite a bit. Yeah. And then I'm going to show one more random card for the day because it is appropriate. We're going to be looking at Bitterblossom today. And Bitterblossom, this is for the Secret Layer set, and I don't know how you feel one way or the other about it. I'm not going to go too much into that. That's not my goal here. I want to kind of just go over the cards and a little bit of the art. So Bitterblossom, if you don't know what that does, it is a 1 colorless, 1 black tribal enchantment fairy. So tribal enchantments are cool. They came back in, I believe, Shadowmoor. No, they might have been in Lorwyn too. I think they were in the Lorwyn, Shadowmoor, Eventide, Morningtide, somewhere in those sets there. But anyways, this, anyways, this enchantment. Okay, well, back up a little bit. So back to the tribal enchantment fairy. So what's kind of cool about these tribal enchantments is that since it's a fairy, if you have things that say fairy spells cost one less to cast, then Bitterblossom here costs one less to cast. Or if you have things like if you have a fairy out, I think this account says like if you have a fairy out. Now if it says if you have a fairy creature out, then that doesn't work. But if it says if you have a fairy out, I believe this would work. And so yeah, like if you have a fairy out, draw a card or something like that, then Bitterblossom would be able to do that for you. But the main thing about this card is at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 fairy rogue creature token with flying. Black fairy rogue creature token. So, I was like, oh, this card's kind of cool. Then I saw that its price is like $40 something, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot. It seems like a lot because when you look at War of the Spark, they have the Dread Horde one where it's like you create a army token or you amass 1, which basically allows you to create an army token. And when you kind of compare them, you're like, okay, they're sort of similar, and that one's worth maybe like $1. Now, the reason why this one is so good is because first off, you're creating multiple tokens, not just one. Second off, they have flying, and that's huge, I think, because that allows you to have a ton of aggression, and it also allows you to block a lot of things that have flying as well. So it's great for both ways because of the basically evasion. But that's why it's worth so much. And I've always liked this card, and I don't know if I prefer the old art or this art. That's up for interpretation either way. But regardless, I do like this art. It is neat. So in this set, it shows that you get 4 fairy tokens, and then you get, of course, the card itself. Let's see. So each fairy token is different, which I appreciate. And I think I can't tell if I'm gonna look for a second here just to. I feel like these 4 fairy tokens basically are an expansion of this world. So if you see, got my mouse here, yeah. So you can kind of see here, like in the background, it's curving. So yeah, this is basically just kind of one big art piece, which is nice. The style is good. I'm glad that they kind of extended the art down. I kind of wish that these cards were full art and not just like bordered full art. But regardless, it is a very neat card. And yeah, I'm still, like I said, not gonna go to that price points or anything like that. But if you do like Bitterblossom, I think the Secret Lair is a decent price for now, unless if everybody buys it and then Bitterblossom may go spiking down or plummeting down in price, or maybe it'll stabilize at 30 or et cetera, blah, 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 blue. Let's get away from that. We're going to go into our random cards for the night. Random card number 1. All right. Stream of Life, which is X green sorcery. Target player gains X life. Haven't really seen that much. I haven't really seen this much. I guess the last edition was 4th edition. And this is there's better cards out there for this. I kind of like the old pastel look on this. It's calming to look at. I got a river and got some grassies and whatever. But I probably wouldn't put this in the deck unless you are going for a major life deck. And I can see this if you're going like full mana ramp and you get like, if you can get like 20 mana out and turn like 5, then Stream of Life may be good for you, because people are gonna be like, well, this guy's mana ramping and he's open, let's go ahead and attack him. But if you get Stream of Life out and then heal yourself by 20, it may be okay. But I still feel like there's better things out there. And even if you heal 20, by that time people are like, okay, well, he just healed 20, we're just gonna deal 20 more damage to him. So it's okay, it's whatever. Let's go to our random card number 2 for tonight, and we'll see if we end here or if we get something cool. Plague Wind. Sort of vanilla, but I think it's cool enough to end on this one. So Plague Wind is a 7 colorless, 2 black sorcery. destroy all creatures you don't control. They can't be regenerated. So I like these cards. It's kind of reminds me of Garruk's Wake, which Garruk's Wake I feel like is better because Garruk's Wake allows you to destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control, for I believe the same mana price. But I think having both isn't bad because Plague Wind, it's kind of a, I know the cannot be regenerated isn't like a great effect, but sometimes it can save you. There are a few creatures that can regenerate, and when you can have these kind of effects, it's probably pretty bad for them. But regardless, black having board wipes is nice. The cheapest mana cost one is probably Damnation, but it's like a $30 card. And so in Commander, if you think you can afford to put these in your decks, I think it's, well, at least mana wise, I think it's okay. I think I have a mono black deck, and I think I have Plague Wind there. I try to ramp as much as I can in that deck, but I feel like it is still pretty expensive for a mono black deck. But if you can get like Gruul or not Gruul, geez, Golgari or Jund or something like that, where you can get green in there to make your mana ramp a little bit easier, I think Plague Wind is a little more viable in that sense. This is for Commander talk, of course. But not a bad card. Board wipes, at least in more casual EDH formats, is always welcomed. Well, not welcome for the people that you're using on, but welcome in the sense of that they're pretty much needed. Anyways, I think that we'll call it there for the night. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you next time, and have a good one.